3 weeks into the legislative session in Florida, where are the big moves happening? State Senator Tom Leek will join us to talk about the so-called AI Bill of Rights. We'll also dive into the details of putting the state's Black History Museum in St. Johns County. In Jacksonville, it's not quite budget time, but it's time to talk with citizens. Mayor Donna Deegan starts her town hall tour to hear from people about their priorities and to talk about hers. Plus, why did this holographic message board generate so much conversation, if not controversy, and was it warranted? We'll ask the mayor on This Week in Jacksonville. Glad you're with us today. So Georgia's legislative session, that's underway with sine die slated for April 2nd. Florida's legislative session began one day later, but it wraps up March 13th. And joining us from Tallahassee right now, State Senator Tom Leek, who represents St. Johns, Flagler, Putnam counties, and parts of Volusia. Senator, thanks for being with us. As you're, a few weeks into this now, where do you see the most progress being made almost a month into the legislative session?
Yeah, I think things are moving along okay. We started off a little bit slow, and so a lot of the bills got backed up, but now you're seeing a whole lot of bills start to move their way through. So it feels like a lot of things are coming at you quickly, but we're probably on track with where we need to be at this point, which is the midway point.
One of the things that we heard was going to be a priority for this session is artificial intelligence. There's this proposed AI Bill of Rights, Senate Bill 482. You're the sponsor here. So as I understand it, it tries to protect people by granting rights like knowing when you're interacting with AI, controlling minors' AI use, parental consents, things like that. Where does this stand and how is it moving through the process right now?
Yeah, listen, we're making great progress on that, and I love that bill because it focuses on protecting children, protecting vulnerable adults, making sure that people aren't taken advantage of by AI and AI companies. We've passed it through its first committee in the Senate. It'll have its come up in a second committee in the next couple of weeks. But that bill is doing great things and is moving right along where we need it to move. In the Senate, still got to move a little bit in the House, but I think we get there as well.
As I understand it, it's moved to Senate Appropriations Committee. Is that where we're at this point?
That's right. We only had 2 stops in the House. And so we've gone through the first stop. We've engaged the stakeholders to make sure our definitions are tight. I've done everything that I wanted to do to preserve the protections for children and vulnerable adults. And so I'm really happy with where the bill is right now. I think the product that'll come out of appropriations will be a very good, very tight product that does what it's intended to do, which is protect kids and vulnerable adults.
I know one of the other issues is all the power that is demanded by artificial intelligence and all of this. That seems like a separate topic, but certainly something we're hearing from the governor's office saying, hey, we have to make plans there, and maybe even some resistance to what's going to happen there. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I hear it, and it's interesting because while I think data centers, they're going to take a lot of power and they're going to take a lot of resources and take some time to build, they take up a lot of space. They don't produce a lot of jobs. And the information that you have predominantly gets sucked up into the cloud. And so where does it need to be? Does it need to be here? Does it need to be someplace else? Are we harmed if it's not here? I think, we have some rural communities that could use the tax base, quite frankly. But equally, you got to make sure that our residents are protected as well and don't get hit with the heavy cost of running a data center.
Let me shift topics here to the Jason Rener Act, Senate Bill 156, something you've introduced here. So this bill, as I understand it, raises the minimum penalty for cop killers. This has gone to the Senate floor again, despite some legal concerns. How would you characterize this and the progress you're trying to make?
I think we get the Jason Rener Act done this year and it becomes law. So we passed it off the Senate floor. We sent it to the House. And really what it does is it takes the argument of whether it was a lawful arrest off of the streets. That's where people get hurt. That's where officers get hurt. And it puts it squarely in the courtroom where it's supposed to be. But quite frankly, in my opinion, I don't care whether you intended to kill the cop when you resisted arrest with violence. If you killed the cop, you should go to life or go to jail for life.
So tell us briefly about who this bill is named after. Part of your, constituent area is down there, Volusia County. So this was a Daytona Beach police officer, right?
Yeah, this one's personal to Volusia County. It's personal to all law enforcement. But Officer Jason Rener was a 26-year-old, I call him kid and compared to my age, but 26-year-old officer. He approached somebody who was behind an apartment complex. His car matched the description of a stolen vehicle. And within about 30 seconds of approaching this person and asking them what was going on, the person pulled out a gun and shot him in the head, which ultimately ended his life. And so we named the bill after him because we think Jason Rener needs to be honored, and we think that anybody who shoots a cop should go to jail for a minimum of life.
Senator Leek, while we still have time here, I want to talk about honoring Black history. There's a bill affirming St. Johns County as the Black History Museum site. It creates a board. It's been to the Senate floor here. And really, I want you to talk a little bit about this. A lot of excitement here in our area for what could be coming.
Yeah, we're excited about it. In 2023, the legislature put together a task force, and we reviewed sites all over the state on this task force. And St. Johns County was consistently the #1 ranked choice by all of the task force members. And so when you look at each of the time, and they went through, I think, 3 times, and each time as they kind of whittled down who was left, St. John's came out on top, and it's a perfect place for it. I'm not saying the other places don't have a good place for it as well. I'm just saying that St. John's is the perfect place for it.
Senator, one of the things I've heard concerns about is people say, hey, I don't want politics to really compromise some historical accuracy here. So some things in this measure, how does it address those concerns?
Yeah, so all the bill does is locate it and put structure around the board and what the board is going to look like. Once that board is created, everything else gets turned over to the board and to the implementing committees that the board creates. And so what's the content? The goal is to get it out of Tallahassee. So the content will be determined by that board of directors and by the committees of the museum. It's designed in a way that will allow those decisions to be made locally within that museum and not from Tallahassee.
Yeah, interesting to me, a state representative from Jacksonville, Kyan Michael, is doing this on the House side. Are you guys working together on some of these provisions?
Yeah, very much so. I think she's got a couple more hurdles on the House side than we have in the Senate. But Representative Michaels is a very good, strong member, and I'm sure she'll be okay.
Yeah, Senator Tom Leek, I appreciate the time, and I know we had intended to do this before the session started, so you're right in the thick of it and giving us some time today. Appreciate that. We'll talk to you in about a month when session is all wrapping up, okay?
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, and that date that session is scheduled to wrap up March 13th. So just ahead, Mayor Donna Deegan joins us. We're talking about her new schedule of town hall meetings and what she learned at the first one this past week. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan kicked off a new round of town hall meetings this week at Raines High School. The mayor says she's focused on addressing some of the most pressing issues in the city, including housing affordability, access to health care, and longstanding infrastructure concerns. The next town hall is February 17th. That'll be at Westside High School. That'll run from 6 to 7:30 in the evening. It's free. It's open to the public. And we've got a full list of the meeting dates and times for you on News4JAX.com. So right now in studio, we have Mayor Deegan with us. So first one is kicked off here. Are you excited about these meetings where you get to hear from residents and what their concerns are?
Well, I don't go very long without setting a new round of these because I feel like I learn so much and get so much better feedback out in the community than I do sitting in my office, or even just meeting with individuals. It's just great to be with a group of people. And this was a very energized group. What you learn, especially about those districts that have been left behind for a long time, is they've learned to organize. And they've got a lot of great groups that are doing wonderful things for local business, for all the things that they feel like they're missing out on. And one of the things that I got an earful on was, look, there's a lot of great things happening over here on the north side, and you guys don't talk about those enough.
Yeah.
We're doing great things for business too, and we're doing great things for tourism too, and we've got all these things, and you guys talk, but it also, Kent, gives me an opportunity they say, you talk a lot about downtown, and I explain my whole feeling that it is so important to invest in downtown so that we will have a good return on investment to be able to invest in those other communities. It's important to have a thriving downtown. And I think they get that, but it's one of those things where we appreciate everything we're seeing, but please know that we're here doing good stuff too, and make sure that you tell the community that. And I thought it was a great point.
Yeah, they've got community pride in where they are.
Yeah, that was at Raines. That first one was at Raines. You probably said that. It was the first time we had been back since the state championship.
Yeah,
and so we had the
right?
whole Royal Court there last night and everything. It was really great. And so I mean, or night before last. It was night before last. But really, I love those discussions because people are unafraid to be completely frank with me, which I love, which I've always tried to set the expectation of. Say to me anything you need to say. And so I give a short setup of what we're doing, what we're investing. I shared that, I've told you this before, have moved all the capital improvement plan projects in 8, 9, and 10 to the front of the line because they've been neglected for so long. So where we were investing $15 million a year in those neighborhoods, now we're investing $100 million. And so they need to hear that. Nobody knows what you're doing but a lot of those are big infrastructure projects. So some people don't know about those. What you tend to hear is, but I still got the pothole in my neighborhood. Right. But so we take notes and we go back and we look and say, when can we fix your pothole? So it's a great give and take, and I really appreciated the level of engagement. And that's how they all are. People are very engaged in those town halls.
So we talked back in October, coming out of some feedback and just addressing some of the needs that people have. I know the city introduced this affordable housing transparency dashboard.
Right.
So trying to give residents kind of a clearer picture of progress. What's the feedback been on that? And that seems like something that, again, as we talked about last fall, you said, hey, we just want to make sure that people know that we're trying to address their needs.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people connect to those, and people in those neighborhoods really do know all about the transparency dashboards. They like that. They want to see what we're doing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Are we meeting our marks? Are we not? Either way, they want to see. And I think that is a way that they can take a look at what they have told us is their number one priority, really, and that is affordability. Folks are very concerned about affordability, especially in housing right now. So we talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about health care because a lot of folks are concerned about what's happening with the ACA. We had that huge increase in the number of people we signed up for the ACA, but now you've seen tens of thousands. I think I read 160,000 people statewide have decided to forego that because of the prices going up because the Congress never did anything with that. And so we're trying to connect the dots on here's what we've done at least locally. We can't fix it nationally, but here's what we've done locally to make sure you still have access to health care when you need it without having to go to the emergency room. So there's a lot of give and take on those things, and I think again, I think it's a great way for me to listen and hear what is resonating, what isn't, what still needs to be done, and what are the budget priorities. And that's what I always have to sort of bring people back to. Is I love all the, tell me anything, but what do you want to see in the budget? And it really always seems to come down to infrastructure. They want more infrastructure. They want their parks fixed like we're fixing the downtown parks. They want to make sure that we are providing as much business opportunity for folks over there, but they also want to make sure their sidewalks and their roads and their potholes are fixed. And we'll be investing more in that. And in septic tanks, that's another one that always comes up.
So I want to talk about septic tanks. Let me leave that for just a moment.
Okay, sure.
I want to talk a little bit. We reported this last week or two that you're involved in a national group, the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And as I understand this, the meeting here for the winter in Washington, D.C. Maybe explain what that is and what the value is for you as a mayor of the city of Jacksonville to get together with mayors from other places across the country.
Well, I always say that that the U.S. Conference of Mayors is how I wish that every group of politicians would ever act, because it's a completely bipartisan group. There's never even any discussion of party. You're just all coming together in different groups to try to find solutions to problems that you all face. And it's so funny because the current president of the Conference of Mayors is the Oklahoma City mayor, who was the very first mayor I met when I first was elected to office and went to Cleveland for that meeting. And I thought, this guy's amazing. He's a Republican. But the thing that we had in common was their city is almost as big area-wide, not as big, nobody's as big as us, but almost as big. And he said, it's really important for us to explain to people why infrastructure issues in our cities are a little different than they are in cities where you have, a few square miles, and here we are with 900 square miles. People need to understand that's a much bigger infrastructure ask, and this is why you have to have metrics for which you address first, and because people need to understand those things. You've got to educate them. And so he's the new president and a wonderful guy, but we also started something new this year, which was a big city mayors coalition, which is cities of larger populations, and we face, obviously, an accelerated problem with housing and homelessness and some of those things. And so to get together and talk to those mayors about best practices, I'm proud to say that the way we have addressed homelessness in this city with our PATH team and all the connections that we've made has really become a blueprint for the Conference of Mayors.
Positive feedback from those other mayors.
Positive feedback from those other mayors, and I think could really become something that helps mayors and cities all over the country, which was very gratifying. But that's what that's all about. It's about best practices from everybody in a very nonpartisan way, and enjoy it so much and learn so much every time I go.
Yeah, I've got at least 3 other topics I want to cover with you.
Okay,
So
sure.
Stay with us,
yes.
And we are spending some more time with the mayor, and going to talk about an experiment that is over at JAX. What does she make of the hologram that made waves? That's one of the topics. Stay with us on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
And Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan is with us once a month, our second segment with you. Mayor, let's talk about a virtual you speaking in a hologram that really we'd seen welcoming travelers at Jacksonville International Airport. No longer there, called a proto box. It played a recording of you, Mayor, welcoming visitors. And this display is interesting. It got criticized as a waste of money, of spending by some of your opponents. You pushed back, hey, it's part of airport operations. And so tell me about this. Is this gone completely? Is it still with the city?
Yeah, no.
Was it deserving of any of the criticism that we talked about it for the last year?
Yeah, look, I think you know what I'm going to say about this, but at the end of the day, this was a wonderful display of brand new technology, which is now being marketed all around the country by a Jacksonville company, a small and emerging Jacksonville woman-owned company, which we were so proud to be able to share with people. It was a $60,000 investment. It allowed us to be, to showcase this technology at our airport, but it was always meant to be a pilot project. We said that from the very beginning, that we would start at the airport, that we would display it there so that people could see it. I have other ways of saying hello to people at the airport, but it was pretty cool. We got a lot of great comments on it. But then we'll move it around the city to others that we could use it for literacy. It has the ability to actually beam in live interviews from other places. You could do author interviews. You could do things on other public works, projects. You name it. There are a million things we can do with that box. But at the end of the day, we didn't think it was fair to leave it at the airport any longer because it had come full term on the contract. And frankly, we felt it had become a lightning rod, a political, hyper-partisan lightning rod. And we didn't want that for the airport, and we didn't need it for us. And so I'm really proud of the company and really proud of the technology and to be able to share it. And we'll use it for other things. But, as I said to somebody the other day, we're entering an election year, so I suspect we'll hear about it again at some point. But no, I'm very proud of it. And I think most people understand that the criticism of it was pretty much coming from, one side.
So we talked about it a few moments ago, but infrastructure projects. I wanted to ask about the Riverview neighborhood. They're kind of taking this long-awaited step toward getting rid of the septic tanks.
How long have we been talking about the Riverview neighborhood?
Seems like, and
decades,
septic
maybe.
tanks in particular,
yes, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Where does that stand? And certainly it seems like it's a pretty hopeful situation for
I'm
there.
really so excited that, with any neighborhood that we want to remove septic tanks from, we have to get a 70% approval from that neighborhood to remove those septic tanks. And it's really sort of a high bar. But this is a neighborhood that has wanted this and a neighborhood that has needed it for a long time. So if you remember initially several years ago, there was a commitment to put $25 million a year into septic tank removal. Then they removed some of that several years ago because they couldn't get these approvals fast enough to do it. So this year we're putting $25 million back into the budget because now we have the ability to increase this and get this neighborhood done. JEA's ready. And
that approval was 70% of the population.
That was 70% of the population in the neighborhood. So that long-awaited project is there, and that will add to the list of the Christabel, Beverly Hills, and Biltmore neighborhoods. And we'll just keep going. We've still got tens of thousands of those septic tanks that are problematic to remove, and as soon as we can get them out of there, we'll do it.
The dumb question, but just by way of explanation, why is that a big deal to get rid of the septic tanks?
Well, it's a big deal because especially the ones along the water, once they fail, they pollute our water, they pollute our land, they cause health problems for people, and all bad things. I mean, there's not anything inherently wrong with them when they're healthy, but they break at some point, and they leak into the water and into the land, and they cause problems. So it's important to get them out of there, and so we're we'll just keep pressing on as fast as we can with them. That is, if I could remove them all tomorrow, I'd do it.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of people in different neighborhoods who say they would love that too.
Yeah.
Let's finish here. It seemed to be some bad feelings between Florida's Attorney General and you or your office or both. The Attorney General James Uthmeier kind of been a leading critic for you. Tensions kind of over this gun registry probe. There were social media accusations involving Hamas. What's at the heart of this?
You know, honestly, it feels very political to me because the truth is, our state attorney, Melissa Nelson, spent 8 months fully investigating this. We gave her thousands of pages of documentation of everything that we had. But at the end of the day, she came to the same conclusion that we did, and that is that one employee who was in charge of security was unaware of the law that was passed saying that you couldn't have a gun registry, and decided, because let me preface this by saying City Hall is one of the few government buildings that's not exempt, that you can carry these firearms. And he thought, well, if I at least keep track of who's coming in, I'll be able to keep the building safer. As soon as we found out about it, we ended the practice. We didn't know. And so what she found was that it was an isolated incident. So these words come as they often do from this gentleman, from a very partisan lens. And I thought Councilman Matt Carlucci said it beautifully the other day when he said it would be nice if we could address the major problems that we all have in common that we're trying to address: insurance, healthcare, housing, all those things. And to have a partner in Tallahassee for that instead of somebody who seems to want to always throw flames would be really nice. So I'm hopeful that we can get past this. I think Melissa Nelson did a very thorough job, and I'm grateful for that. But if he wants to see something else, we're happy to provide it, whatever he needs.
Mayor, I appreciate going into that and our conversation in these last two segments. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you. Always good to see you.
I'm Ken Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4, the CW17, and online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4JAX Plus. We'll see you next week.
See why every day more people are choosing News4JAX, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.